All right, you can start in three, two, one, go.
Okay. Hi everyone. It's Atari Gems, also known as Mocha Human, and welcome to HBCU Con's monthly live panel discussion. This month is June, Pride Month, and we're super excited to have a panel called Shine Bright, and I have some lovely guests with me tonight, and we're gonna just talk about Black LGBT history, HBCU campuses as it pertains to LGBTQ students and staff. And yeah, okay. Okay, everyone. As always, here's a brief history of HBCUs. HBCUs are historically Black colleges and universities. They are institutions of higher education, mostly in the United States. They were established before the Civil Rights Acts of 1964 with the intention of primarily serving African Americans. HBCUs continue to play a crucial role in providing quality education to students of color, with over 100 institutions spread across the country. HBCUs offer a diverse range of degree programs and provide students with a supportive community that is often lacking at other higher education institutions. While there are many challenges to overcome, HBCUs continue to play a crucial role in providing quality educations to students of color. And to our right, here is a graphic featuring many of the institutions. So I just gave a brief history of HBCUs, but why are they still relevant? So HBCUs are responsible for a lot of our Black workforce. 85% of Black doctors attended HBCUs, 80% of our Black federal judges, and 75% of our Black PhDs all graduated from a HBCU, whether it's undergrad or a master's program. I do want to specify that HBCUs continue to also be very cost effective in terms of other academic institutions, often being cheaper than PWIs and Ivy Leagues. And they also produce some of our greatest and brightest athletes, artists, scientists, and things of that nature. Do, do, do. And a brief history, as always, of about HBCU Con. HBCU Con is a community celebrating and bridging the gap between historically Black colleges and universities and Black geeks at large. For this unique lens, we bring you the Black Geek Homecoming experience. We are committed to showcasing the brilliance of HBCUs and their students, as well as providing a platform for Black geeks of all walks of life to come together and connect. We want to show that the world that HBCUs are just more than institution of higher learning, but also places where some of our best Black geeks are being cultivated. Some of you all may have previously attended HBCU Con in the past, or you may have caught up with us at DreamCon, AwesomeCon, MagFest, or any other Comic-Con in the DMV area that has a space for us to vend at. But I'm super excited to share that this in a few weeks, well, actually next week, the month is just going away, y'all. We have our mini con, HBCU Geek Fest. It is Sunday, June 22nd from 4 to 9 at the Overhills Mansion in Catonsville, Maryland. We have a arcade powered by MagFest, special live performances, different panel discussions. We'll also be having a Pride panel discussion at our Geek Fest as well. Also live DJ, a cosplay showcase, different professional photo ops, and complimentary Oris Devours. And we will have a Black and Greek vendors market that people can get some nerdy wear. So I'm super excited to like share, and we will have a 420 friendly patio. If anybody in the audience at home wants to attend Geek Fest, or you want to help out with Geek Fest, you can find the application to volunteer and also attend on our website at hbcucon.org. There are no tickets being sold at the door. So last day to get your tickets is June 20th, and I hope to see you all there. Okay, so a little bit about Black LGBT history, pride and power. Obviously, like many of the discussion that we'll be having tonight have to do like the contemporary space that we're in. But I did want to include that a lot of our identities and things of that nature were already pre-existing before the white gaze and pre-colonial time. Many African societies historically recognize the varying gender identities and sexualities. Many cultures honor gender nonconforming roles, such as the Zonde's acceptance of same-sex relationships, or the many orishas that exist in the gender fluid spectrum. However, hate saying this, due to European colonization, many things changed within our communities, often enforcing moral codes and criminalizing and stigmatizing many of the culture, customs, practices, and identities that our ancestors had, which leads us into our next point. Um, as you all know, or maybe some of you don't know, audience at home, Pride started initially as a protest led by trans women of color, Stonewall riots, Marsha P. Johnson. She was one of the architects of the Stonewall riot. Or Stonewall Uprising riot in 1969 in New York. Also included is Miss Major, who fought alongside her, and as well as a couple of individuals. Unfortunately, due to the time, I didn't have a chance to put everyone up there, but I'll be sure to at least share on the HBCU Con like page, like more information about the Stonewall uprising for those that are interested. I also want to just give a shout out to Bayard Rustin. He was a gay man who often his like political and social justice work gets ignored. He was in Martin Luther King's camp, and he helped organize the 1963 March on Washington. I do believe he was a HBCU grad, but for some reason it's escaping me what institution he actually attended. And then want to give a shout out to Audre Lorde. Black lesbian mother, warrior, poet. Also, she's very important to the culture as far as talking about many of the things that we're seeing in our political climate, and also ballroom scene. You know, that's still existing today. If you all haven't seen Paris is Burning, do give that documentary a a a viewing. I think I feel like that should be a required viewing if you want to understand some of the plights and struggles of some of the early individuals who were kind of making this safe haven in their communities. Um, Voguing was born out of Black queer ballroom culture. Um, you know, at HBCU Con, many of our team, we are LGBTQ, and we make sure that we uplift our student, staff, and alum that we interact with, and you know, making sure that when we talk about Blackness, that we don't exclude our LGBT siblings as well. Okay, so just, you know, because it's HBCU Con and a lot of our work is specifically linked to HBCUs and campuses, many HBCUs are starting to have more LGBTQ resource centers but students still report that they may find challenges balancing their cultural and sexual differences. But we're seeing that more HBCUs are implementing more inclusive non-discrimination practices, both on the Students Affairs front and in some of the social group fronts. There are some Black Greek-led organizations that are inclusive of trans individuals and things of that nature. For the sake of time, I didn't want to have to kind of pigeonpoint and share all of which campuses are doing that type of work. Campus acceptance, we still got a ways to go. However, as far as some of the practices and being like more inclusive, but I do want to just like shout out that there are Black queer student leaders that are driving activism and inclusion at their campuses. Many of them are involved in many of the movements that we have seen previously, whether it's Black Lives Matter or defending our migrant siblings against ICE. And I just want to take a moment to just, acknowledge that, our HBCUs, even though they do a lot of work, we still got a lot of work to do on that front. And just some notable figures. This is Marsha P. Johnson, everyone who I previously mentioned was one of the architects of the Stonewall Uprising. But I want to just also share that the work is never done. And, folks like Marsha P. Johnson, Bayard Rustin, and even some of our newer celebrity figures like Coleman Domingo and Laverne Cox, they're making great waves in the activist space, the art spaces, and even the business spaces, inspiring all of us to continue the work. But the everyday average like Black LGBTQ person may face discrimination or barriers in the realms of housing, employment, education, and that sort of thing. And also, because today is June 12th, I wanted to just give a moment of silence for the 49 that we have lost in the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando, Florida. While many of them were Latinx, a great bit of them were Black in the African diaspora. It's just a constant reminder that even though we've made a lot of strides, we still need better protections for LGBTQ people and better gun reform. And to bring it up a little, as you all know, at home, many of the fandoms that we love in the nerd community, such as like Marvel, DC, and some anime titles, they're making more efforts to have like gender variant characters, openly bi and pan and lesbian characters. It hasn't always been easy, and sometimes creators have experienced like pushback, and there also has been erasure of like creators being queer and not getting the recognition that they need. So I just want to include like Deadpool because I know everybody loves our like he's like our favorite like pan idol. I kind of wish they kind of brought more down in the movie, but I don't want to like get sued by Disney Marvel. Um, and here's some like resources, folks at home. There's the Okra Project, Black Trans Advocacy Coalition, for the girls, Brave Space Lunch, Beam, Therapy for Black Girls, Therapy for Black Men, House of Gigi, the Marsha P. Johnson Institute, and the Black LGBTQ Migrant Project. Many of these orgs, they do offer, of course, like mental health support, but it may be just something like, hey, like I'm a trans individual, but I don't know where to get like clothing or like where is like finance resources for me in my city and that type of type of thing. So all of these different orgs pictured here, they offered something, and um, I'm just gonna say please donate to them because we're in a very scary time, and these orgs that are doing the work um, now more than ever, they need our support. And I want to get into our panel tonight. Ooh. So um, so we have two of our panelists here with us tonight. I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. And Robin Nerdy Cosplay, she's one of our panelists. She may hop on later throughout the night. I'm not really sure. But Num or Jay, if either one of you all could take the pleasure and just like introduce yourself to our audience at home, that'd be awesome.
Hi everyone, my name is Num. I am a Storm XM cosplayer. I'm really excited to be here tonight to talk with all of you. I love that this platform has allowed for me to come and join and be a part of the conversation. I'm so excited to see everything that comes out of HBCU Con. I hope you guys have so much fun. My pronouns are they, them. I'm really excited to chat with everyone, and I'll hand it over to Jay, who I also love.
Thank you so much, Nom. So yeah, my name is Jay Hero. I am an illustrator, writer, brand strategist, and brand identity designer. I own my own creative studio that centralizes in uplifting and telling the stories of the oppressed through a fictional lens. And so making sure that we too can be wielders of cosmic power and stories that centralize not just our pain, but also our potential. So that's what I love, and I'm really passionate about all of that. So I'm looking forward to the conversation today. Thank you.
Awesome. And everyone, I just checked my phone. Robin had emergency, so they will not be able to join us. I hope everything is all around their end. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Atari Gems. My cosplay handle is Mocha Hime. I'm a part of HBCU Con's team. I do volunteer coordination, host this monthly panel, and sometimes I do social media as well. Yeah, and I'm a writer and like creative, and I used to be a housing program manager for a LGBTQ nonprofit in my city. And so this type of I think it's very important that we do have spaces where young people or just folks that are allies can, just listen and learn. And I'm super excited to have this conversation because I'm a lifelong nerd, and I feel like a lot of my nerd proclivities also help me develop a spirit of like social justice. So yeah. All right. I'm pulling up the questions because they keep coming off my phone. But I'm super excited, and thank you all for taking out your Junior Friday to be with us. So my first question, um, I guess like, are there any LGBTQ like historical figures that you look up to as far as just like inspiration or or anything, or just somebody, if you had a chance to like have dinner with them, like who would it be?
Okay, I'll take this one first. So it's actually really great that you brought up Marsha P. Johnson. And for those of you that don't know, we were having a little bit of a chat before this. And I feel like passion and very strongly about a lot of things. And so I look up to her in a lot of ways because being fearless in the face of adversity and being fearless in a space where it could be dangerous, I think, is something that I look up to a lot and I respect and I challenge myself to step into. I think it's very challenging being Black and queer in a lot of spaces. And so I think that for me, I personally try to embody that fearlessness a lot and taking a stand to do what's right. So that's what I was leaning more towards. So it's great that you brought that up tonight because I was like, easy, I already know that.
Yeah, thank you. Beautiful answer and a great question too. I think for me, yeah, Marsha P. Johnson is definitely one of the figures that I look to just in general, like Black trans women and overall have been just one of the people that I have looked to that I've learned a lot from, especially when you understand like transness is it's so deeply human. And when you understand why the current systems at play are trying so avidly to dismantle and destroy it, I'm just so inspired by the resistance that in spite of that a lot of trans people are out here just doing the groundwork and doing the thing, but especially Black trans people, especially Black trans women. But I also want to give a shout out to Black trans men as well, which I know they tend to fall to the wayside in some areas. And so I want to just mention that transness for me, although I'm not a trans person myself, when I work towards unlearning a lot of these sort of cis heteronormative ideologies and precepts that I grew up and conditioned to believe, or to sort of navigate through. I think that looking to trans figures and Black trans women and people like also James Baldwin, other queer figures who have been pivotal throughout history. And I even don't even have to mention someone that's super like famous. Like I know people in my everyday life who are just really cool and like really awesome. I just see them being like awesome every day, and it doesn't take. I was listening to a song that says that it always doesn't always take a hero to do the impossible, but I'd say that I agree with that. And you see ordinary people doing all exceptional things all the time, and it just so happens that a lot of those ordinary people are trans people, are these queer people, the Black queer people out here putting ourselves in the front line to inspire change. Sorry, long-winded answer, but yes.
No, we love it. Um, I'm trying to think. Um, I had made like a Instagram like image of like people that I just love, like Janelle Monáe, Tessa Thompson, Josephine Baker. Frida was not included in that image because like I wanted to highlight the Black women in films. But I just love like for me, like I love self-expression and I love when people I do feel like fashion is political and like art can be political and I just love like all the figures that I kind of gravitate, they've always been about centering their identities and like owning their power in their own way, oftentimes in ways like sometimes I feel like people wait for other people to define them. And I think there's such a power in like people defining themselves and like what makes them unique or like what do they need and like also the power of like radical like vulnerability and things of that nature. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
I
think so
think
that
I'm gonna watch Dirty Computer tonight because I haven't watched it in a while. And I love Tessa and Janelle.
I like that.
Um,
I'm sorry. I was going to say like I like that you brought up radical vulnerability because like that's really cool. Like I like that term. Just someone to say that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay. How do you embody the spirit of ballroom or protest or Black queer joy into your nerd identity?
Okay, Jay, you go first this time.
Okay. Okay. I like to listen, so I'm sorry, but no. Okay. So I I'm a dancer. Well, I'm not professional or anything like that, but I was trained in like college and somewhat in high school, ballet, hip hop, modern, all that stuff. It was fun. And
Really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I've always danced for a while. I was always an artist during the performing and fine arts. I grew up playing piano, drum, saxophone for a small bit, singing vocally, always drawing. Drawing was always my thing, but I've always dabbled. My mom was always supportive of making sure that I was seen in that kind of way. So, which is great. So I dabbled in all sorts of things and I found myself in these different identities. And so like art is so inherently queer to me too, or it can be inherently queer. Like, and I feel like once I found that out and leaned into my voice and discovered like just how beautiful that can be, I leaned into, like, for example, dancing softly when people expect you as a Black man to dance or move a certain way. But I want to move with grace. I want to move with calm.
Yeah.
I don't have to do, sorry, I'm about to crump, but I don't, I don't, I don't have to do certain things. But no, I can be this. I can be that. I can crump if I want to, but I can also do this. But I feel like existing and moving my body in that way. I can't vote for nothing. If I went to a ballroom, which I need to go, I need to go. But if I would not be up, I would love to be on stage, but I would probably be terrified because I would probably be booed because I can't vote. I can't. I can't. I commend everyone who can, but it was just I just so yes, I dance and um it's my art, my visual art, my writing as well. I try to write inherently queer characters that feel authentic, that feel real, even from walks of life that I'm not from. I feel like for example, there's another story that I'm working on right now outside of my comic that, I'm just trying to, where there is a young Black trans girl, and it's inspired me to learn more about transness and Black transness. And I feel like that's what art does. And I feel like when I lean into the joy of, movement and all that, it really inspires me to be even more queer than I can be without my abilities, I guess. So
I agree. I like how you said the just like living. For me, I think a lot of my protests, because I'm very vocal and I tend to try to educate myself as much as possible. I tend to realize a lot of the time, like, it can be overwhelming and there's a lot of stimuli there. So sometimes, like, just existing is enough for me some days. And then other days, it's like, nah, I'm going out in the world. You're going to see my Black face. You're going to see me here. I'm going to be in these spaces that are predominantly white and put myself in positions where I am a person of color. Like, you remember, like, oh, there's a Black person that these people exist in these spaces. I think a lot of the times we, because we are, very much, around people that are like us, we forget that so many spaces are dominated and we are the minority. And so I think me being vocal about that and me stepping into spaces that I think aren't predominantly meant for me is a form of resistance. And also, like, being fearless in the fact that, like, and very confident in myself in those spaces, I think is a form of resistance, because they want for you to be small. They want for you to, conform in a lot of ways. And refusal to do so is such a form of resistance now, especially because they want the silence, they want the fear. And I'm not gonna walk around in fear. I'm gonna walk around with my head held high, and I'm not gonna move out of the way for y'all. Y'all gonna move for me.
Hey, period.
Even if that just means, like, I'm walking down the street or I'm walking through the grocery store. Like, those can be small things, are forms of resistance, as well as big things too, like making sure my friends are educated, not just my Black and brown friends, but like my white friends, making sure that everyone has access to truthful, honest, real conversations, and checking people if they need it, but also showing people love when they need that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
And also have fun with it too, because I get to be in cosplay.
yeah. I think for me, now that I'm on the HBCU con team, this is like the first time outside of like that job that I had being like a housing program manager, where it's been in the nerd space that's been inclusive, because I've worked for other like nerd brands, but it's usually like, I don't want to say like a bro fest, and I'm not trying to rain on like any like cishet men that are listening, but a lot of those spaces, a lot of Black nerd spaces, I do find them to be very toxic for me. So by joining like HBCU con and like having like hard discussions, or where it's like there are like Black women in like leadership roles, there are Black LGBT folks in these roles, and like having like a say of like, hey, I think we should post this today, or like, hey, I kind of want to do this, or hey, like our con, we can have this, and this, because it's important. Because like I think even with that, and I tell like some of my friends who are not in like the con making space, they just, I don't want to say like just kind of go along with things, and they're just kind of like, oh well, this con they don't have this, or there's no one like me, and then still attend it anyways. And I'm just like, I don't think we should lean into like scarcity, and like being a part of this team has led me to like dream and like build better blurred and nerd spaces, or more inclusive, instead of, because like a few years ago I'd just be like, oh, I don't want to be in these cons, like I don't deserve to be here, like I'm too big, I'm too Black, I'm too femme, it's like all this. And now it's like with being on this team, it's like, you know what, yeah, we should actually, yeah. And so I just want to shout out the HBCU con team for like continuing to make, even though we're Black nerd, to be a little bit more inclusive, because some of the other brands, they're not, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, this is not the team's opinion, I don't want to get fired. I just feel like there should be more consideration, or another perspective considered. That's a nice answer. Okay, is there like a piece of like, is there a show, like what's your like queer comfort show?
My queer comfort show. Okay, so this is probably old, but I love the show Sense8. Like
Mm-hmm.
that Netflix show. I could watch it basically all the time. It's one of those shows where it's like I go back to it and like I pick up more and more when I watch it. But it's so cool because I love superhero stuff. I love like obviously like we're talking about like nerd culture and we're talking about queerness. The show is all about like these people who have the telepathic connection to like connect one another and like see through each other's eyes and like learn from one another like from all across the globe. And it's such a diverse show. It's not just Black queer people or people of color. It's like people from all over the globe. It's the most amazing show. It's from the Wachowskis. They are fantastic. Speaking of, queer trans people, love, love, love them. The show is fantastic. If you haven't watched it, you should. It's amazing. But yeah, that's one of the shows I go back to. It's also speaks volumes to like resistance and speaks volumes to opposing, the norm or what should be, because they are basically fighting for survival and to exist in this world that doesn't want them to. So I love it.
Honestly, like there's so much content on here and so much media, so much film, movies that I've seen that I'm like, man, but thankfully, like it's improved over the years with regards to queer representation as well. However, I'm gonna go further back. I'm dating
Okay,
myself, that's fine.
take
Like,
us back.
Ooh, girl.
okay, I'm gonna say Xena because
Oh, yeah.
like yeah, although I haven't really watched it in a while, but when I do watch it, it's nice to know that like, oh yeah, even back then that affirms like why I was drawn to her, in part because of her queerness, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But also I thought she was a badass too, right? But it was just all of that, and like, and I just love when it finally clicked for me that it was a queer show in a lot of ways. Like it became so much more nuanced and interesting, especially for its time. So that would
Mm-hmm.
be my answer.
Nice. I think for me it's gonna always be Adventure Time. And
I'm sorry. Yeah, that was so much. Yes, that one. That's good.
I'm sorry. I want to love that show so much, but I can't because I got introduced to the spider episode, and literally me and my friend were talking about this the other day. It's one where like the spider babies are like spraying on him, and I was just like, nope, can't do it. Sorry, nope, not watching this show.
they did have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Can't do it. But no,
Um,
all right.
yeah, Adventure Time, and I'm gonna have to also probably if I'm gonna talk about a live action show, Pose, even though that was really traumatizing, I just still love like the high like glamour and stuff like that. And I felt like I learned a lot. Like I know I'm like a cis woman, but I was like, yeah, I needed to see this show because that was like one of the first shows that made me think like, okay, I didn't learn this. I need to do more and I need to understand why. Like for me, it's like I don't know what it's called, but it's like I'll have a hyper fixation on something. And I'll be like, now I need to like research, and I'll be
No,
going
yeah.
on all these like Reddit things. And I just I kind of wish there was more. I mean, like I feel like Ryan Murphy, he can be a little bit of an opportunist, but that's the separate conversation. But
Yeah.
I miss that cast and like the energy that they had, and things of that nature.
I think too, and wow, that the Ryan Murphy thing is a separate conversation. I think Pose and like shows like that, we don't have a lot of them in mainstream media. So like getting them on TV and like just them even being there at all is a win in our books, I guess. But also like the exposure that it gives to people because people didn't know about it, so now people will have an opportunity to learn. I think is so important, and I love that show too. So
I have the sudden urge to say, because of, you mentioned Pose and how I think in a lot of ways it was, radical and just its existence alone.
mm-hmm.
And
Hmm.
I think again about this push to eliminate arts and expression and creativity, and how for years art has been undermined and has been underfunded, and so much so that it's systemically, there are systems in place to work against creativity. And so now we more than ever, we need these stories to
Yeah.
people to like. I know people like are asking themselves, what can I do? I don't want to be on the street. I don't feel safe doing that. I don't feel safe and that's fine. I used to, when I first started, doing protesting and became more socially aware, I thought
Hmm.
advocacy looked a certain way, but I had to learn that it comes in in multitudes, and especially for different bodies, different capabilities and abilities and people. And so art, I would encourage you, whoever is listening right now, like if you have a story and you're queer, like, and you are like, especially Black and queer, and you have a passion burning inside of you that you really want to make your voice heard creatively, like please tell that story. Like whatever is holding you back, uh, treat it with kindness and compassion, but see if you can get through that, and see if you can get through that barrier, with, of course, with understanding, but because the world needs you. I feel like, well, if we lean more into like that, like we talked about emotional intelligence earlier and advocacy, and that goes hand in hand with creativity. Like if you have emotionally intelligent people who know how to be creative too, just imagine the amazing art you can lean into. It doesn't mean that you can't be angry, you can't be sad. There's space for all those things. But I feel like now is the time for like queer art to really just, queer artists, Black queer artists, to really lean into our power creatively. So if you're looking for a sign and you were struggling through that mental block, now is your
Do
time to get through that. So there we
do
go.
the web series. Do the web series because
Do it.
there's.
Try that
I'm
content.
gonna shamelessly plug. I don't know what happened to it, but there's this one web series that I discovered in college. It was called Brown Girls, and it was a Daisy character and then her like black best friend. And it was by like this poet. I cannot think of the name. I remember they got greenlit, and it's you can still probably find it. And it was like 10 episodes. They self-produced a web series, and they were in Chicago, and they were like just two like black and brown like queer girls figuring out. They were like in their early 20s. One was like I think the black character, I think she was like Caribbean. So I like that they have like some type of nuances. But I think also like web series, I don't think they get enough credit. Like even though we're talking about like uh anime in our fandom stuff, I do think like if people do want to create content and they want to share like web series, that's also a available platform for them too. Um okay, so do um I guess since it is Black Music Month, And HBCU we love music here. And
Whitney
I
Houston.
guess
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I knew what it was. I knew what the answer was. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, who's your Black Music Month like artist that you could listen to like over and over again?
Yeah.
Okay. That's okay because it's such a hard question.
It's okay. I can I can answer it.
I
I can
currently got.
answer it because,
I'll go ahead.
or
Go.
do
You
you want
please
to
answer
answer
it. You
it?
answer it. Go ahead. Go
Go
ahead.
first.
Okay, I'm embarrassed, but okay, because I love music, like I love music. And I've seen this person like 3 times, and they're Black, but they're multiracial. It's Kalani, and I last saw them last year with like my siblings, but I've seen them on 3 separate occasions. I love them. Controversy aside, I think they I think like they're big, like going back to that radical vulnerability, like I think they talk about like saying like, hey, I'm not this. And they're also I'm glad that they're in a space where they feel like they can just be a non-binary lesbian and include that in their music. And they're just like, as soon as it happened, like the fans were like, we knew that, but we love that came out. Like coming out is not necessary, but I love that Kalani is very much like, I'm I'm talking about a woman. I'm talking about another non-binary person, and then having those visuals in their music videos, and then also talking about, and they're really like honest about like their motherhood journey and how like even though they're non-binary, they are still a mother, but they oriented and they're very transparent about that in their music and with their fans. I think another person, granted, I've only seen them once. I'm trying to see them, but they're always sold out. Janelle. I saw Janelle Monáe like Afropunk like 2016. Prince had just died, and she included a Prince tribute because that was one of her mentors, and it was purple, and she like did this like crazy guitar solo, and I feel like the neurons in my like 20 something brain then like I needed to experience that moment.
Yeah.
And just watching them kind of like do their own kind of work and like self expression, just like, hey, like when I first came out, I had this kind of more um asexual like persona, and now I'm like, you know what, I'm pan, I want to show my titties, y'all gonna see my titties, I'm still gonna like talk about like Afrofuturism, and you're gonna get this work. And I just think like they're literally like Octavia Butler's dream. Like obviously like Janelle's like amazing, but I feel like sometimes people like keep missing like they are an Afrofuturist artist. So that those are my two. Sorry.
Okay. Speaking of Kalani, though, she has done like a collab with K1,
Mhm.
who I love, love, love. I was like trying to put like a list in my head because there's like music is my thing too. Like when I'm not like around people, like my headphones are always in. Like I'm like constantly listening to music, singing, around my apartment. But Victoria Monet, love, love, love,
Yay.
love, obsessed with Victoria Monet. I don't think she gets enough credit, this artist. But her name is Kiana Lede. I've seen her in like in person. She's fantastic.
What genre?
She does R&B. She's amazing, amazing, amazing. And she identifies as queer, and I love her sound. A couple of her albums, I was like, I'm gonna listen to this on repeat forever for the rest of my life. Honestly, she's like one of my like top 3 music artists. I love, love, love her. And then I'm like trying to decide, like obviously like you can go with like the norms like Frank Ocean and stuff, but if I had to choose, like it would be Victoria Monet and Kiana Lede. Those are my 2.
Oh, I know who that is. Do they work with K Tronada a lot?
I don't think so. Maybe she has. I have to look
I
at,
feel like
because I'm
I
like
feel
when
like
I listen to her music, I'm like I don't care who else is on this. I'm just listening for Kiana.
yeah, I think they work with K Tronada a lot. So I might have heard a couple of songs. But yeah. Oh God, there's a lot of artists. If we're talking about R&B, like I think their name is like Mneke. It's like Mnek. They're really good. They do a lot of pop stuff though, but they're plus size like black mass person. I don't want to say they're a man. I don't want to assume, but that's this descriptor. But they're really awesome. They do like pop, sometimes EDM, R&B.
Yeah.
Um, I guess for me, well, obviously I said Whitney is one of those people. She's my girl, always been my girl. So let me say a little bit of story. So for me, I was that one kid who was like, I got pictures of it. And I swear there's a VHS proof, if y'all know what that is. Remember, so I'm from the 1900s, so whatever. Uh, but I'm sure there's some VHS or something of me because my mom would tell you I used to dance down to Janet Jackson. That is my girl. And like dancing to Janet Jackson in my Superman costume. So I'm dancing it all for you. I just, I'm like, so that was always my girl. And then of course it makes sense that I like Victoria Monet because that's her daughter, right? So and then like of course Doechii. I'm specifically there's a song on
Yes.
from Doechii like that I have been. I'm looking at my Spotify playlist right now. What's Your Name by Doechii?
Yes.
That's the initial EP. Like
Yeah.
that on repeat like since when I first found out about it. I'm like, oh my god, I love this song. So Doechii is dope. I really speaking to her. I really like adore and love that she spoke up for. Just she spoke up for
Yeah.
that. She said what needed to be said, and it looked like people were in the audience were uncomfortable, but that's okay. Like she said what needed to be said. So I really need more of that. And I like when people, and
Yes.
it's so interesting. It's always in a lot of instances, queer artists, Black queer artists who are doing this, and so yeah, that's telling. We're always on the front lines when it comes to social change. And hey,
Yeah. Much love to Doja. I want to see them. I couldn't go to Pride last week in DC, so I couldn't. And I every time that they're like around in the DMV area, of course it sells out. So I haven't seen them. But
yeah,
yeah, I'm glad you brought up like the social responsibility of like our recording artists. Cause like I remember when Kalani dropped that first video for their last EP and it was dedicated to Palestine, the internet was like, and I remember they were like, they was losing a lot of money and they're just like, I don't care. I'd rather say something. And I'm just like, yes, keep that up.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just hope that, like, of course, more artists speak out, but that it's, even with Doechii, even with anyone who's really in it, I'm not absolved from this either. Like, that we continue to hold ourselves accountable, that we continue to speak out, especially if you have more access, more privilege in certain ways, like that you can do what you can to like, make a difference, whether it be donating, helping people, like even if it's like you just hey, I got a paycheck. I'm gonna donate to a person to a cause each paycheck. It could be something as small as that, but as long as I feel like you are planting seeds for a better world, I feel like that's where we need to start the seeds. People think that change can be grand, change can be big. It certainly can, but and most often than not, the most sustainable and lasting change are the ones that where seeds are planted and cultivated and nurtured, and people and more intention and mindfulness is put into their fruitfulness and their building. And if we are to imagine a better world outside of capitalism, outside of police, outside of genocide, like that's kind of I think those are the sort of principles we have to start implementing.
I think too, we also can't forget like aside from the donation and things, which I think is also really important. I think taking also like actual steps politically, I think is really important too. Calling our representatives, if you can't march, if you can't do those things, voting is so important. These local elections, getting involved in your community, being knowledgeable about the people that are in office around you, not just at the world stages, but also locally. That has a big effect on how things play out in our local communities. I think being involved that way is really, really important as well. So while donating and like being knowledgeable is so important too, but doing real work too, making real change, that involves going to vote, involves calling your representatives, making sure that they hear from their constituents. It's such a big thing. Even if you can't go to every protest, you can pick up the phone and call someone. You can send an email.
Yeah.
You can go and vote. You can vote ahead of time, and mail-in ballots are a real thing. So do it.
Yeah.
Yes,
I want to
that
add
is.
to that point. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's what I said. That's so important. And also like a lot of people forget like volunteering because like even at that role that I had at the I mean obviously like nonprofit, like they survive off of volunteers. I mean half petty but mostly truthful. Like I remember people like, I want to help, I want to help. And I'm like, hey, these kids, you know, they just want to play like the Switch with an adult that will listen to them. And we would have like just people who would like play Switch with the kids, and they would do that each week. An audience, I guess for context, I used to work for like a LGBTQ youth nonprofits, and um just like people forget like time is also very essential to even if you don't have like the money, like time is important. Or like
Yeah.
if you're like, hey, like I got some mass clothes and I don't want to donate to Goodwill or something, you know, call your shelter. There may be like a trans or non-binary individual who cannot get those items at the shelter because it's not there, you know, things of that nature. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I want to say too, like, thank you for saying that, you too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, on the point of like community and also like donating, like I prefer to donate more directly if I can. Of course, the
Mm-hmm.
organizations that I trust, like for example, if you know people, if you know groups like schools and programs that you know you can donate directly to, people say like money does not make a difference, but it actually does, especially for those who are in need of food, who are in need of like, you know, like clothes, things like that. So, you know, making sure that like when you are giving funds and things like that, you know, as you're learning, you're doing, like you said, you know, you're making sure that you are involved in the community. You're making sure that you're having an understanding of the representatives in your local counties are doing. So having knowledge of legislation, but even with the topic of community work as well, like getting involved in the community. And don't this is something I want to note too, as someone who I've done community work in the past. Something
Mm-hmm.
that I had to learn was that when you're learning to, even if you, especially if you're not from the community specifically, like
Mm-hmm.
don't make assumptions about what you think they need. I think it's so important, like while you're doing the representation, while you're doing the work calling your representatives and voting, we cannot always rely on those in power to do the everyday stuff that needs to be done with the community work that people are always going to be in need.
Yeah.
So being aware of the needs in your community, getting to know people, even your neighbor, like those things that simply radically, it can be radical simply as like being neighborly, because community is lost now. And like, bless you. And there are so many aspects like infrastructurally, systemically, community. This capitalism is not, it's the antithesis of community. And so if we lean more into that, if we lean more into our resources while also doing the larger and more over and the broader work as well, because sometimes I think people sometimes feel like lost when they say, you know, they don't see their representatives doing anything. And so they feel like
Mm-hmm.
I'm powerless. But hey, there's many things that you can do. Advocate for your library, start a program, you know,
Yeah.
for example, one of my cousins asked me like, hey, I have another one of my second cousin is as an artist, and she said, hey, can you do mentors? You know, yes, it's stuff like that like you can always give back in different ways, shapes and form, while you know, while also not relying on those that empower to do what they are supposed to do, but still advocating for them to do what they were assigned and voted to do. But I don't like the idea of like I'm not the kind of person that like to wait around. So for me, it's
Mm-hmm.
like I need to get things done. And I see people in need. It's like I don't want to wait around for like for this and that, this law and that law, because people are in need now. Because in the meantime,
Yeah,
people are dying, and you know what I'm saying. So
they
yeah,
need housing, they need everything.
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay. My next question, um, do you feel empowered in nerds spaces both in public or in online spaces, or like, sorry, I feel like I
Um, I would say that any empowerment that I think I'm bringing with me I think cosplay has allowed me to feel a lot of empowerment, a lot of, um, self-confidence, just because like being in cosplay as this character, as Storm, as someone who is very powerful in and of
So you're
himself.
not Storm?
What?
You could have beat me.
What?
Okay.
No, but in all seriousness, I think that any confidence that I have felt in nerd spaces I've brought with me. And this is just a personal thing where it's like I feel like I have to be very confident in myself just because like I put a lot of work into my cosplays, I put a lot of effort into, what I'm presenting. But I also feel like in those spaces too, like I feel like there's a lot of uplifting that we do. So BlurredCon is a great example of this. I love going to spaces where Black and brown people are supporting one another, but also like when we see each other, like it's a lot of love. And like that, I think, is very uplifting too. So I come in already confident and like ready to hit the ground running, but then I get there and it's like, you look dope. And I'm like, you look dope too. And so like, then it's just like, I'm like now euphoric. So I think that I'm like, I don't want to just say like, oh, I go into other spaces that aren't predominantly Black and I don't feel that way. But I feel like for me, it's always compounded on. Like I always feel like more love than I get anything else. And online, I would say that I've been very blessed that the people that I connect with generally are and overwhelmingly have been so kind, and any like negativity or anything has been like very minute, and it's easy to be like Black because I'm not dealing with that because this is my space. But I think for the most part, like when I go to cons, like when I go to spaces, it's always like I'm here and then I get pushed even higher. So I like that.
I love that. So that was a beautiful answer. I want to make sure that I'm understanding the question. Can you like repeat it again?
Yeah, hold on. I had asked, when did you first feel empowered to be out and nerdy in public or online spaces?
So in 2016, during Trump's initial election, or just a term, the start of his term, I was as understandably like a lot of people, I was a wreck, emotional, all that other stuff, and I was upset. And but after a while, I started asking myself, man, like everyone seems like now, like they seem like they're feeling hopeless and powerless, things like that. And so like I I said, what can I do using the skills that I have to inspire some positive change? And so I said, I'm a nerd, I like nerdy things, and I believe that I'm a big, superhero fan, all that other stuff. So I began the process of organizing my own Comic-Con. At the time I was 25. I just got out of college and I was organizing. This was an Ypsilanti at the time, and I over the process of maybe a half a year or so, I raised the funds to do a free comic convention at a community center called Hero Nation Comic Con, which was again free and accessible for the community. We had school supplies, we had free food, we had free video game tournaments, we had free panel discussions, we had free books, we had a lot of guest performances, things like that. But it was what was important for me is that when people arrived there, they felt safe and that it felt like a space where they can like celebrate and embrace the hero inside of themselves. And so that was really, I think prior to that, there was another space that I went to called MechaCon. That was an exceptional experience, and I was so much inspired by that I created, that own experience with my Comic Con and or the Hero Nation Comic Con and things like that. And I feel like that really, when I was able to see like people, exist in that space, and they came up like you said, like you said, you prefer like smaller conventions in certain ways. Like it was a small convention. We had like maybe 40 vendors and like 150 or something guests. It was small, very community oriented. I make sure that all the vendors had baskets and with hand sanitizer, they had some food, that sense of care, that sense of humanization. Like in a world that dehumanizes people like us, it was felt important to me to create a space, a nerdy space, that where people can come and feel tended to. And so that was really, I think, prior to that, there was another space that I went to called MechaCon. That was an exceptional experience, and I was so much inspired by that I really, when I was able to see like people, exist in that space, and they came up like you said, like you said, you like feel heard, feel celebrated. And so I think that's why I said earlier, like, if you don't see something, whether it's a story, it's a movie, whatever, an event, if you don't see something, you have the ability and the power to manifest it, especially as if you're an artist, a creative person, even if you're not, collaborate with people. All you need is the vision, is the drive. Yeah, yeah. That's what I said.
No, I love that. I love that. Taking power in your own hands. For me, and I know I mentioned in other on some of the previous live panel discussions, like uh I am like a smaller cosplayer, but also like I do a lot of stuff outside of my community. Like one of my friends runs a Nerdless venue and gaming tournament with their partner here in Richmond. So, and that was born out of them not being accepted into burlesque spaces. So she just kind of was like, oh, like I'm gonna do this. And then like I make jewelry, not as much anymore because of like life in. But I would always like she gave me like my first vending spot and then like helping out like with the burlesque shows and like cosplay or like helping out with the gaming tournament, and it's mostly like black and brown, and like my friends who run it, they're black young people doing this and like making spaces like no, we can do it. And then like the theater that they do it, it's a black and brown owned like theater space. Well, it technically is a speakeasy, but it is a mini theater. So I think like going into spaces like that, um, I feel like an overwhelming sense of joy. And then like my friend group, because I've been in like some weird like friend spaces. I'm like, and now it's like, okay, like we're all going to the Ren Fair, and there's some people who didn't like care for it, but like they went anyway, and I'm just like, I love that. Like I love us. We were fairies. Yep, yep. And things like that. And like I also co-run like a small um like Black women who love horror. Like I didn't come up with the concept, but I run like the Richmond chapter and like being like, hey, does anybody want to see like Final Destination? And then it was like six of us came out and met up. And I think like as you were saying, Jay, like a lot of our third spaces are being taken from us, and a lot of people, they're losing like the human aspect of like community and socialization. So like I'm always intentional each month getting like my black and brown and queer folks like, yo, we need to do something stupid because the world's all and not stupid, but just something that's joyful and like
Yeah.
being intentional about it. So yeah. Tunde just pinged me and he's like, we're coming a little bit up on time. So I'll have like one or two questions. And I don't think there's any um he said there was no like questions from the audience. This makes me a little bit sad, but we're having fun. um okay. Hmm. Okay. It's not on here, but like I guess what is everyone's favorite well, you all kind of both touched on it a little bit, but I want to just hear more like who's a superhero that you personally identify with? No, I know you're gonna say Storm, but expound upon for the class.
Wow. I don't know about any of you. I'm just kidding. I'm sure you've never heard of this character before. She's completely revolutionary and new. No, actually, the reason that I found out about Jay and love him so much is because I saw his art online. And this is before we ever met. And I was like, I love his art. Love, love, love. And started following him on social media. And then I realized he was going to be at BlurredCon. And so I was like, the first thing I'm doing, I'm gonna go find this person, this individual. I'm gonna buy some art, dang it. Because he had done this amazing storm.
I love this.
So I went and like hunted him down in Artist Alley, and Jay, this probably get me in a lot of trouble because I never told anyone. We went in early that day, the first time, and it was closed still. They weren't open yet when we went down to see you.
Oh wow.
And we snuck in the back way, and they didn't stop me because I'm me. And they're like, I'm assuming that there's
Right.
down there, whatever. Because I just walked
Yeah.
through with confidence. I didn't stop anyone. No one stopped me. This
Yeah.
last year, they had the doors closed. They were like, no one's good by this time. But we went and I was like, I have to go find this art piece. Like, you don't understand. And my friends are like, yeah, whatever. And I was like, no, I need to go find it. And so then when we met, I was so excited. But Storm is my favorite character. Getting back to the actual question. And I think it's because even sometimes, like, when she's written kind of like queer coded and, you know, kind of ambiguously, I think that seeing someone who is brown skinned, dark skinned, someone who is this powerful as a character, but also fearless and ethical and has high morality for doing what's right and standing up for people that can't stand up for themselves. I think that's something that we should all really aspire to. I think they're doing a lot of great writing for her in her current ongoing series, kind of elevating her into a more prominent role in the Marvel Universe, which I really love. But I think it's the writing in and of itself really boils down to someone who's honest and good and trying to do what's right, in the face of all of these challenges and all of these really big enemies that kind of want to tear her down. And for me, I think that in this current climate, but also every day, we need to, you know, walk out into the world with the intention to do what's right and to do what's good and to face any kind of adversity with as much fearlessness as possible. It can be scary. And like my own personal fears and shyness aside, I think that if I intend to go out that way into the world and into any kind of endeavor, then I'll be successful. Sorry, that was very long-winded, but
no, we love it.
I love that. Yeah, so I mean, I know we talked about earlier that, you know, I grew up loving Superman. That's still the case, you know, but I that's my heart is telling me that's not my answer right now, although he is one of the answers. And I say this to say because I love a lot of characters and I really like the concept of a lot of characters, you know, Storm included, Diana, I mentioned Superman, yeah, just to name a few, but I didn't want to speak about just my own character. I don't know if it's like cordy or whatever, but it is to me, like this is it's really true. Like I'm I feel like as an artist, I'm creating a character that I am falling in love with. I feel like that is so important. And I feel like this little girl, you know, she is like my niece. And like I'm like, I'm sorry, I gotta write these situations to put you through these tough times, but girl, you're gonna get through it. I promise you, we're gonna get through this, okay? You know, so it's one of those situations. So just to provide some context, so I'm specifically talking about like my comic. So I know we talked about this beforehand, but for the audience, it's called Star Wielder. It is a story about turning fear into power. That focuses on a young girl named Kiara Kelly, who is like 14 years old. She's powerphobic, has flame wielding abilities, from Detroit. And so part of her journey is learning to face her fear of her abilities. Otherwise, she'll risk losing everything and everyone she loves, including herself. And so when we talk about things like what does it mean to face your shadow work, or the concept of yin and yang, like there is space for both your light and shadow parts. In a world that lives in extremes and binaries, we're going to make space for all of you. In a world that says you can't be this and can't be that, well, there's no space for your grief, your depression, your fear, your anger. We're going to get through it. We're not going to let it overtake your emotions. Those emotions overtake you, but we're going to learn how to get through those emotions with love and grace and understanding. And so I'm creating this, what I believe is a beautiful, powerful, just exceptional character in so many ways, but also very human, very vulnerable, and her and how she handles her grief, because outside of fear, the story it's about grief. And I haven't personally, I haven't lost outside of you know, my god sister who back in 2016, and some other close friends and whatnot. You know, in my immediately family, I haven't, you know, had that experience of having that really heavy grief. but it's through this writing of this character who's also experiencing grief, who is learning to turn her grief into strength, into power. And we see what happens when other people in the same story who are experiencing grief of their own, but they turn their grief into power in corrupted ways. But you have this character, in my opinion, who um, she has every reason to be angry, and she is in part, but she has every reason to be vengeful and to be heartless. But she still chooses a path that works for her, that is based in her strength, that is based in her love and her for her people and community. And so, in a time that we're talking about, systemic change and corruption, I feel like what will really help and advocate, what will really help change the world also is, again, going back to the concept of planting seeds, is planting the seeds of, emotional intelligence in people and the stories that we tell. It really, especially specifically young people, giving them mediums and avenues in which we teach them to say, hey, we understand why you're angry right now. You have a lot of big emotions, especially as teenagers. These kids are out here not having the emotional resources to understand how to navigate their emotions. So they're doing all kinds of things and, getting in all kinds of danger in some ways too. And so how can we show up for them creatively by creating stories that centralize this? And so I feel like my character, like, not to my own horn, does this, and I think she's great. Not because I think, not because like just because she's like powerful or not, but when I say powerful, I mean in the sense of becoming, of overcoming, in that sort of emotional sense, although she has a lot of powers too. So rant over. I'm sorry, but yeah, that's my answer.
Oh wow. Wow. I can't even follow up with that. But if I had to pick like a queer character, and this is gonna probably sound like silly, but like the newer incarnation of like Harley Quinn, I'm very far behind on the show, and I will one of these days get back. But I kind of like I like how at her essence, like she's super intelligent, but like again, I am a Scorpio moon, so I always am talking about feelings. Like I feel like there's still like a great strength of like learning to love again, and and with like I feel like I'm about to go on a rant and I could be destroying this, but I like that they made Harley Quinn in some of the like in the show and in the new comics, they made her queer and they gave her a healthy relationship with Poison Ivy and they're talking and they're working through stuff. And I do think like just having that courage for like being out, being with a partner that loves you and accepts you, and then also like just being like a badass bitch. Like I love it. Again, I'm way behind on the show. I will catch up. I promise to catch up. But I don't have any other questions because we're coming up on time. But can you all tell, and I want to thank you all again. Can you all tell the audience where they can follow and support you?
Yes. Hi everyone again. This is Num. You can find me on Instagram and basically on all my social media. I'm Num1X and then like number one X-Men cosplay. I'm mostly on Instagram. You can probably catch me on there all the time. I'm like normally doom scrolling. No, I'm just kidding. But that's my handle. I will be I might be at Tidewater Comic Con at the end of the month. But unfortunately, I'll be missing HBU Con at the same time. And then after Tidewater in July, it's the Uncanny Experience for me in Minneapolis. It's an immersive X-Men experience. I'm so excited to be going. But yeah, follow me on social media and you'll see where I'm at, what I'm up to. Hope to see you guys soon.
All right. Yeah, so it's me, J Hero again. You can follow me on, I'm not calling it. It's, I'm not, it's Twitter to me still. Twitter, I would say Blue Sky, and then Instagram for sure, and then maybe TikTok. All the same tag. I'm J Hero. The letter M, JAYHERO. And also, if you want to support me and my work directly, you can visit my studio website, which is heronationstudio.com. Thank you.
All right, everyone, and I'm Atari Gems. You can find my cosplay Instagram at Mokahime with it's M0CHAHIM, and then the E is 3. But if you all want to support me in the work that I do with HBCU Con, even though HBCU Con is a joint effort, I'll be at HBCU Con Geek Fest this June 22nd. But if you want to learn more about like HBCU Con or like what we are doing in the future, or want to donate or become a sponsor, just hit us up at hbcucon.org. So yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And then can I say
uh,
one more thing?
sure.
I just want to say, like, last thing, y'all, for anyone listening to this who got to the end of this, I want y'all to just, remember to just be bold, be courageous. If that fear you feel, it's okay. You can get through that. Like, and be courageous enough to be queer, to be yourself. There is power in existing, like Num said. And so don't be afraid to exist, even if it's just simply doing nothing, like dancing in your own space, but just get comfortable with that because you deserve to have that space and joy.
Hey.
Yeah.
And did you want to say one last thing, though?
One last thing on the spot. Happy Pride, everyone. It gets better, trust me. You will navigate these waters as best you can, and when you look back, I promise you, you will be proud of yourself. Do the best you can, as much as you can. Do no harm to others, but mostly to yourself. Be kind to yourself. If you ever need support or help, please reach out to people that you love and people that love you. There are people out there. I promise you, you will find a chosen family. It's amazing. Bye.
And everyone, my final remarks, at HBCU Con, we always say, all are welcome here. We hope that you enjoyed today's conversation. Please note that LGBTQ liberation is not a closed-end project, is very much a open-end project, and at HBCU Con, we are proud to create space for our queer siblings. Um, Also, if you are an HBCU grad or considering pursuing an education at HBCU, we are more than happy to support your journey. And that's all that I have. Thank you all again for joining me tonight. And I hope you enjoy your Junior Friday. And audience, I hope to see you all on the 22nd.
Yeah.
Bye.